All right, welcome to the Out of Mana podcast. We are here with episode 3. Sorry for missing a week. I came down with COVID and I'm still not feeling 100%, but here we are today with the real Shiesty and myself. So how you doing, good sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing? Because you're the one with COVID.
I'm feeling much better than I was about a week ago, but I still have that lingering cough and just some soreness from I don't know what. Apparently, COVID affects more muscles than anything else. I thought it was gonna be like a respiratory thing, but I just felt like I got beat up the whole entire time.
Yeah, this current wave has been affecting everybody so differently. I recently overcame my bout, probably almost exactly about a month ago. Because I got mine, and I had every symptom under the sun except for the three main ones, which is the loss of smell, taste, and what was the other one that I was didn't really have to worry about? Can't even think anymore. But anyways, yeah, it sucked. There was one day that was probably by far the worst, but it sounded like you're getting it a little bit worse than I had it. So
Yeah, like I said, it was just muscle pain the whole way through. Like the respiratory issue wasn't really much of an issue besides congestion, but dude, I felt like Thursday through maybe Sunday, I legit couldn't move because I was in so much pain. Picture getting hit with like a baseball bat, and that's what it felt like all throughout my body. And I've gotten hit by a baseball bat in real life, so I know exactly
geez.
what that pain is.
Yeah, thankfully I don't think I've had to endure that. But that was the third one I just, for whatever reason, couldn't remember. But the loss of breath one, yeah, thankfully I didn't have to deal with that, especially being an asthmatic. But
Mm.
every other symptom that you could think of that they have notarized, I definitely experienced. It was almost like I would get 3 or 4 a day, and then like one would usher in and one would usher out. Body aches, I had them pretty much throughout the most of the ordeal, but not to the extent you're saying. They weren't that severe. Same with the fever. I felt like I had a fever most of the time, but the thermometer wouldn't indicate that. So maybe my thermometer was bad. I don't know, but yeah. Overall, it's great that you're getting better. You don't sound 100%, but I didn't get to hear you last week. But you're saying you got better. You're getting better,
Oh
so
yeah,
that's
like
good.
let's just say like compared to like last week, I'm like 90% better.
Yeah, and you got your booster too, right?
I did not.
You did not get a booster.
No, but my mom did, and I like maybe COVID affects everybody differently, but
It
she
does.
had the muscle pain, but then also because she got the booster 1 week after, or no, 1 week before she actually got COVID, she got like
Oh,
this massive, horrible headache that just wouldn't go away until like 4 days later.
wow. Uh, okay, so how about we dive right into topic uno?
Actually, hold on.
And
We're,
okay,
we're a
go
video
ahead.
game podcast. So while I was sick, I did play a couple games, World of
Okay.
Warcraft. I've been trying to get gold for my last week of my sub being active, so I've been trying really hard to get that. And I've also been playing Men in Black Alien Crisis. I know you
Oh,
probably haven't heard of that. It's one of those really not good games, but I was in the mood for a Men in Black game, and I was playing on the PS3. So have you been playing World of Warcraft, and also have you been playing what was the last thing we were talking about? Octopath Travelers on P Mobile.
correct. So bear with me 1 second. You were having technical difficulties before, and I thought I didn't, and actually I was the whole time. So I just rectified that. Yes, still playing obviously. WoW. Octopath on the mobile. I don't want to dive into that too much because I don't want to give away a lot of discussion for a future topic. But yes, I am thoroughly enjoying it. You're gonna pretty much hear about my happiness later. But really, yeah, that's all I've been still playing. Once again, like same 2 weeks ago. There's still many on the list, but yep, that's what I've been toggling. Just both of those two back and forth,
Cool.
consuming all my time.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny when I was sick, I'm like, oh, I get to finally play a lot more games, and I'm like, oh, dude. Once I started playing Men in Black, I'm like, good thing this is a short game because I can't play anymore. Like that's how bad my concentration was breaking. But then
I could,
I,
yeah.
I was
Sorry.
just I was just gonna say, but then also playing a game that's not good also makes it worse too.
Mm,
Because I was like, oh,
yeah.
this game is so bad. I don't want to. I need to stop playing this game.
Yeah, there was definitely a couple times where I wanted to like normalize my lifestyle per se, with the exception of work, and I would try to play games. For the most part, I was, but there were, to your point, there was a couple times that even I had to forcefully put it down and be like, nope, this ain't working. Let me get my ass back to bed. But also staying in bed the entire time doesn't help you get better either. So you gotta have a nice equilibrium.
Yeah, I had to force myself to get out. Like the first 2 days, I was basically in bed the whole entire day except for going to the bathroom. And I'm like, nah, I gotta get up, man. I gotta move around. And luckily, that actually helped me a little bit. Like after I started moving and I sat in the sun
It
and let the
does.
sun hit me, I was able to
Mm-hmm.
start recovering a little quicker for some reason. I don't know why.
The fresh air does and did help me a lot as well. I didn't have to go interact with people. I just got my own car, drove around, and just get that fresh air, and it does help. It does help a lot. So it's good that you did that too.
All right, so I guess we can finally move on to the topics of Pokemon. You're wearing the shirt, which where did you get that shirt? I really like it.
Oh man, I believe it was an ex girlfriend that got it for me, so I have no idea where. So yeah.
Should have been a wife because that's an awesome shirt.
So yeah, it seems like we always find a way to squeeze Pokemon onto our podcast in one way or another, even though this is only 3 episodes, but we find a way. Yeah, so basically now I lost track of time because your COVID threw me off. If it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I think it was last week. They had the Pokemon Direct,
Hmm.
which was a just shy of 20-minute extravaganza, uh, talking about all things Pokemon. But one of the big highlights was Scarlet and Violet. So we got to learn a lot of new information, like the new legendary color Pokemon that are on the game, which is Coridon, sorry, Miradon. Probably still butchering those names, but I am going to gravitate towards Scarlet. I do like both of them. I really kind of like them both equally, but I still like the Scarlet one a little bit more. The lay of the land is named Paldea, and the new gimmick, which we could dive a lot into that a little bit more. Terrestrialize, I think is the way of turning your Pokemon into gem-like structures, which I'm fine with. I like that. I think they look cool. What I didn't like, on top of that, are the stupid, silly things that are on their heads. I didn't care for that much. Now I need to probably see them all. Maybe there are some that look adequate, but for the most part, I didn't really like what I saw. Um, so, did you see the direct, and what was your take?
So because I seen it the day of, there's not really
Mm-hmm.
much I remember except for I do think it's very funny that the legendary Pokemon names are basically of like you get to ride on them, like their names mean their vehicle, and I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
really cool. Like what they both look like motorcycles, kinda, right?
Yes, yes. Which is, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say like I really liked it because the last time we got to ride a legendary Pokemon was in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire with Latias and Latios, where you get to fly around on them,
That's
and
true.
I really like that part. So I'm glad that they're making the legendary Pokemon more interactive, with
Mm-hmm.
your experience, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking forward to it. And plus, I've said this before Sword and Shield came out, is that I really like the style of open worldness with Pokemon games. Like I love Pokemon Coliseum and Gale of Darkness, and I was always hoping for another version of that. And it seems like the mainstream Pokemon games are finally turning into that, and I'm loving it. I love how you can
Yeah,
just choose your own path, and you don't have to necessarily follow gym battles, but you can just go around and explore, collect Pokemon. Like you can this time, you actually get to choose your own path in any order you want. There's no structure.
not only that, I'm not entirely sure about the non-linear aspect of like the gym battles, but they did specify that that wouldn't be the only avenue you would. I don't know if you would say complete the game or just. I definitely experienced the game because they definitely designate like three big main objectives, and one which was the traditional gym battles, which I'm
But they
always a
said
big fan
they
of.
specifically said you don't have to do it in any order.
Okay, see, well, then I must have missed that little part. But that's cool too, right? I mean, I'm a big fan of nonlinear. I mean, that's been a really big thing lately. Um, but we still know what the other two avenues are as far as um, main objectives to the game, right? I
Hmm.
know you just mentioned like collecting. That's always been a side thing, like right, complete your Pokedex, but maybe they put more emphasis on it or something. I don't know. Um, Going back to legendaries real quick and utilizing them as vehicles of transportation, whether it's flying, land. They didn't really show them in the water too much, but I'm sure they're gonna function in some capacity. But I dig it too. I think it's cool. The whole previous method of using different Pokemon to utilize for transportation, that was cool too. But I like this change as well. Like I feel that they're just universally being used in that capacity is pretty cool. Um, I'm pretty sure, or the way they sold it was like we're probably going to get them pretty early in the game. Um,
That would be really cool if they did, like, like level 20 or whatever, like the first quarter of the game you get it, and they're kind of weak, and then you build them up to be like this powerhouse, like other legendaries are.
I think exactly how you just laid it is probably how it's going to orchestrate, right? Like, not that they're weak, but you're going to keep unlocking their potential per se, and then you get to that benchmark where, like, well, you know what? You reach that max potential. As a trainer, I reached a little bit of potential myself, so now I'm going to throw this Pokeball at you, and you're going to stay in it. So yeah, I think that's how it's going to unfold as well. Yeah, I'm always excited for new Pokemon games. I mean, who I shouldn't say who isn't, but like generally speaking, the excitement is very very large in the air. So
Yeah. So, kind of going more into the multiple different paths that they have, like
mm-hmm,
besides the gym battle. I'm
mm-hmm,
kind of hoping that they dive into lore collecting, kind of how like they did in Legends of Arceus a little bit. Because one, you had the unknown, we had to go around, catch them, and find them because they're all hidden. And then
mm-hmm,
two, there was also like these stone tablets that you kind of like went around, looked like the plate. What was it? Whatever the Arceus plates are.
mm-hmm.
And the more you unlock, the more you get to like understand the story of what's it called, Paldera and
Paldea, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Paldea, yeah, and just like get more background story. Like I would love to see the gym battles, but then just imagine like if you didn't want to do that, you can just get like the history of Paldera by just walking around collecting things like that, like
Yeah,
tablets or Pokemon, and they give you more and more entries to the world.
I think that'd be fantastic as well. As well, I mean, anything that caters to a completionist thing, I think we're both fans of. And I mean, Pokemon itself just does that, obviously, but with the Pokedex. But yeah, maybe they have some like more diverse storyline other than just going getting badges. Something that's more like maybe on the anime side of things. Like I don't know, like who knows? Like hopefully it's really good and it surprises the hell out of us.
What
I
do you
think
think?
I've.
Good.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. What do you think the collecting thing is gonna be? Because like in Sun and Moon, it was those little Zygarde stickers or Zygarde
Yes,
parts, and then
yes.
Arceus was the unknown. I forgot what Sword and Shield was, but I know they had one too. Uh,
Yeah, what did they have in Sword and Shield? I don't. Did they have? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they took that out. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
I could have sworn maybe it was like in the DLC when you had to find those little pieces to some of the birds. Maybe that's what I'm
Now,
thinking. Or no, the
yeah,
Isles.
DLC definitely did have that. That DLC definitely had that. But the main, I don't recall it. But I mean, that's not to say it didn't exist. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, dare I say it this way, it doesn't really matter what that thing is.
I know,
I'm a
but
big,
like,
but
what would you think they would be?
I'm also a big fan of it because like is if this is going to be even more open world than Sword and Shield was to the dynamic of like climbing up mountains and soaring across and all that stuff. I mean, like Legends of Arceus,
It's gonna be more
yeah,
like
like
Legends than anything
yeah, like
else.
you could hide rares all over the damn place for exploration. Like, I mean, it's just awesome, and I'm looking forward to it. The multiplayer aspect is still a little unknown and
That,
how that is going to function. Like we know it's going to function with raid battles, right? Because they said that's returning, but
uh,
they did pretty much kind of confirm a like multiplayer campaign, right?
Yes, and I think that's why they like that's why they said that there's no actual structure, because when you have like all these, what is it, up to 4 player co-op, right?
Up to 4 players, yeah.
So I have a feeling that, when you go in there, you get to challenge all these different Pokemon, like Arceus, where you have these, what were they called? The big like supernatural.
Alpha, yeah, Alpha, right?
Yeah, you probably
Yeah.
see like some alpha Pokemon or whatever, a mega Pokemon in the wild, and you would need your friend to come in there and help you, because they might be like, one of those battles where you don't have Pokemon, so you basically have to like throw sticks and berries at them until they go down and capture them.
Like this Safari's Zone rocks.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think Nintendo would do that though. I don't think they would put a blockade up that would require you to co-op just to get past.
yeah, no, they definitely wouldn't make it mandatory, but like it would probably make encounters easier, or they'll scale to whatever your party is.
I think what they did say, what will happen with the co-op is, and now kind of little segue into the little terrestrialize gimmick, as I like to dub it as. Um, the one thing that I also do like what they said about it is when you do terrestrialize that, and I might be butchering that name by the way, but the Pokemon could take a different type, and there's multiple types for you to obtain. So, for example, like by default, we know a Pikachu would be electric, but there's a flying type. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a water type, and who knows what the other one might be. So, with that said, they already did say with the co-op that when you do these raid battles, that the rarer ones they could still be obtainable single player, but the more you co-op, the higher the probability or the rarity of getting that particular type would increase, which I'm okay with. That sounds sense because it's not you're not mandating that you have to do co-op, but you're adding an incentive.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's honestly that's the only way they're gonna do it. We all know Pokemon. They're all for they usually push more for single player, but they'll never make anything required to play co-op. And like you said, if you do co-op, it'll just give you the extra little boost, but not enough where it makes it mandatory for you to have that 4 player co-op to get those special Pokemon.
Yeah,
But
for
I
sure.
I would love to see if they do type variants, like special type variants. I would
Mhm.
love to see like Pikachu, like if it was flying, it'd be tied to balloons again, or like water Pokemon, it'd be like on a surfboard the whole time. Or
Mhm.
I don't know what a rock one would be, but maybe him lifting a boulder over his head.
Well, the Terrestrialize they did because that's part of the very first event is they're going to give everybody a flying Pikachu version. So it actually does have balloons tied to his head. But that's when it's in that form, right? I have no idea what the other forms are, but like looking at the starter Pokemon, like the fire one had what looked like to be almost like what would that be? I don't know, not a chandelier, but freaking candles on its head, and it's like it looks so tacky. Like it just looks so bad. And then the grass one had like this big old flower thing, and then I don't even remember what the water one had. But I'm looking, I'm like, no, don't do that. It's like if you want to make them into crystals and gems, fine. That looks fine. That looks good. All the other shit I could deal without, but we'll see. Maybe
Honestly,
there will be some that look really
you might
cool.
not like it, but I actually liked stuff like that, making it look like weird and kind of like comical in a way. Um, but oh, man, what was I gonna say? I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh no, yeah,
It's that COVID kicking in.
no, I remember now. The way you're describing it almost sounds like they're turning into Kirby. Whenever Kirby eats something, he gets like these little
Well,
like, little weird items on him.
yeah, kind of in a sense. Now, I don't know if I don't think that they've shown enough to show that it's going to be unique to that Pokemon, or if it's unique to that type. So therefore, like that same look is going to happen across all fire type Pokemon and all water and etc. So you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
so it's not like unique just to that like let's say Pikachu won't have like special looks compared to like a Charizard or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
That much I don't. To that extent, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there is information out there, and I just haven't come across it yet. But that I don't know. But all I know, and like I said, you say you like it. I'm saying I don't. Different opinions. They're going to make their money with their plushies anyway. So But
Before we move on, still with the
yeah,
Pokemon talk.
sure.
Tomorrow is Pokemon Go Community Day.
Ah, yes, it is.
And obviously, Pokemon Go, they add new variants coming soon. Do you think they're gonna do another special event like they do, with Sword and Shield, where they add Molten like 6 months before Sword and Shield comes out, and then you kind of like have to play this game of like what is it and then guess.
Well, it didn't. It didn't come out with Sword and Shield. It came out with Let's
Oh,
Go Pikachu and
yes,
Eevee.
you're right.
Um, I don't foresee that happening again. I really don't.
Because I thought that was one of the coolest things when, like, after like the community day, a random unknown Pokemon came out, and everybody's like, "What the heck is this thing? Is this like a glitch in the game?" And then,
Yeah, no, that. Oh, I'm sorry if I
no,
cut you
that's
off.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, no, it really was cool. I think it was cool for veterans like ourselves as well because we didn't even know what the fuck it was, right? And we know our Pokemon, right? Because we dare I say we put ourselves in higher exaltedness because we played the original games and they only played Pokemon Go. But no, it's like we obviously know more and we know what is going to be coming in the future. So even then we didn't know what the hell it was I just don't foresee that happening again. But who knows? I mean, they could always surprise us, of course. I mean, um, like look at what was the name of the one of the most recent that grass Pokemon that was with Celebi's movie. I can't even think of the name of it, but they already released that and go. I think before it got released as an event in the main games, I was like, whoa, that was like a curveball as well.
I don't think I actually caught. Is that like the junk? What's his name? He
Yeah,
basically like was
yeah,
I don't know, whatever that monkey Pokemon was, but
yeah.
green.
That's the one. Yeah, green and black. Yeah, that's the one. I can't think of the name myself. But yeah, they released that one, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But going back to now Pokemon Go and talking about Scarlet, Violet really quick, just to kind of wrap it up. I haven't watched one. Usually, the people on YouTube make those in case you didn't see this type of video after
A
trailers come out.
recap.
Yeah, well, yeah, and they like they inspect the shit out of every little frame and everything. I haven't watched one of those yet, and I'm sure there is one for the Scarlet and Violet one, and I need to probably find and watch it. But one thing I noticed is the teacher that was kind of doing the whole thing and talking to the kids. I noticed he had Premier Balls on his belt, which are predominantly used in Pokemon Go. So I said this was Sword and Shield, and I feel like if this was a feature, they'd probably drop that nugget by now. But like, could you imagine if somehow you were able to invite Pokemon Go people to do raid battles in the actual Scarlet Violet? I don't know. I couldn't possibly fathom as to how it would be accomplished right now.
I
But
don't know
like,
how you wouldn't be able to because we've done it. I mean, they've done very similar things before with Pokemon Let's Go, with allowing these trades to happen. Obviously, it was a one-way trade where Pokemon go to the games, but the technology that they've adapted with Sword and Shield, with the raid battles, and then also the Switch connecting with whatever Pokemon Home is, they
mhm.
easily could connect Pokemon Go with Scarlet and Violet and do all these raid connections.
Man, that would be a game changer if you ask me. Like that'd be huge. I mean,
Yeah.
because technically you could then with your phone, unless they recognize it by account and not let you, but you could just help yourself with your Pokemon Go account with a raid battle.
Yeah, but
Um,
they'd have to come up with some kind of extra invite system, because if they leave it the way it is now, you would have to spend one raid pass to get in. So they'd have to have like a special invite system where they, you get like this 1 day pass, you get 5
mhm,
raids, and
mhm.
then you have to wait another 24 hours or whatever, 48 hours to do another raid.
For sure. I'm sure that they could gate that somehow. And also too, I think they excuse me, I think they definitely would have to do it with the Pokemon trainer account because that would be the integration for, being able to separate IDs and such. So but I'm just throwing it out there as a randomness like
This is where the microtransactions come into Pokemon. You have to buy raid
oh
passes in the
Lord,
game now
let's
too.
no 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 no. We'll talk about that later. But let's not. I mean, technically they already exist and Go. We all know that, but like,
Oh yeah.
but yeah. So segueing to topic two. Um, I when you pitched it, I really tried to dwindle upon it, and man, did I come up short.
Okay,
So
I guess I could explain it since you don't know.
yeah, go ahead.
So Recently, as I've been collecting more and more games,
Hmm.
and I've been looking back into what I played, I feel like there's no mascot or memorable games anymore. Like, when I was younger, we had Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish,
Hmm. Hmm.
obviously Mario and all that stuff, which people still have
Hmm.
now, but just, constantly building upon itself. So I'm not going to
Hmm.
count that.
Hmm.
And Crash Bandicoot and, Sly Cooper and all that stuff. They were just like mascot games that kids can
Hmm.
get into and have fun, and then you look back and you can just remember them fondly. But
Hmm.
nowadays, even I still play a lot of games, and I try to like still branch myself out to like platformers and all that stuff, puzzle games. But there's no like franchise anymore that catches you like they once did.
Okay, so that's what you mean by memorable games. Are there any memorable games now? Um, well, like you said, you play at least currently a lot, and I mean a lot more platform games than I do. But everything you said is true. Like back in at least my childhood, we're kind of same generation, but like just like half a generation, a quarter generation off. And yeah, I've grew up with all those notorious, um, as you call them, mascots. And now, I mean, man, to your point, there really I can't think of anything, even with bringing it up. I mean, there's been successful franchises, right, that have like maybe a Kratos from God of War. I mean, I don't know if you really put him up. Not really. Like,
He's definitely a historical character, but I wouldn't say like he's a memorable mascot character for like kids.
oh, so it just generally has to be kids.
Well,
I mean, I don't think it
see,
has to be. I mean, it's memorable is memorable.
well, yes, memorable is memorable, but I feel like for kids, it's all like either violent shooters, Fortnite, whatever,
True. Yeah.
and there's
Hmm.
no like actual like cartoon mascots anymore, unless if you're going with
Correct.
Mario or Sonic or
Correct.
whatever.
Yeah, and to that point, when you say shooters, everything like a lot of the more popular games now, like the Fortnites of the world, although they'll steal from other IPs. I shouldn't say steal; they buy it, but whatever. Um, they're all based on. I'm not saying based on real people, but no, they're people, right? Like there is not a mascot; they're people. So man, like even though you did kind of clarify a little bit, like still on that same wavelength, like I just truly can't really pick one, dare I say, out of my ass. Like it's just like I just can't really think of anything.
Because since I've been collecting and I've been branching out more and more, there is still kid games out there. Like there's like oh god, I'm gonna probably mess her name up, but something with like dogs, like pup something. He goes like he's like a firefighter, a policeman. He does all these like weird different like odd jobs.
Mm,
Um, Paw Patrol. That's what it's called. Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol. Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't really know much about it. But
But there's basically a lot of games like that. But when I play them, like they're not memorable. They don't really catch you except for just being like a little quick gimmick and just some weird jumping and puzzles and them telling like silly jokes. It's not like
Mhm.
Sly Cooper or Ratchet and Clank where you go there and it's like they're unique, they're memorable, and they kind of have a story built into it instead of it just being like a random gameplay element. It actually
Mhm.
like feeds into a story.
Mhm.
And there's not many of those games out there for the kids to like play or even to remember because most of them are not good. Like I think the only one that came out recently that was good was the video game for the superhero dogs, like the Batman
Oh
dog
yeah,
and Superman
yeah,
dog.
the DC Pets or something like that, or
Yeah,
something.
like that's the
Yeah, yeah.
only good one, and I guess maybe like the Lego Dimensions or whatever, Skylanders might be another like memorable kids game. But like other than that, they really don't have much anymore like we did.
Yeah, I mean that's it's yeah, because everything, even the ones that like the ones you named, I mean they still exist today, but I mean those are well-oiled machines, right? They're going to continue to exist as long as they keep utilizing them. And when we always kind of talk about Nintendo too, like they have so many IPs that they almost probably feel like they don't need to create any new ones, right? Like
Hmm.
like they got the cream of the crop. Um, Sony and Microsoft. I mean, even Microsoft really never went down that alley, even when they were first trying to come up. I mean, you had Halo, but once again, going back to the human type figure, um, that was their bread and butter. I, I really can't think of anything. And then Sony, to your point, they had Crash. And then even when they kind of moved away from Crash, um,
It's kind of
I
funny
don't
that
know.
you said Sony had Crash, Spyro, and you said Xbox had nothing, and now they own those properties. So now
Yeah,
Crash and Spyro belong to Xbox.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, but that's because of, buying out, other developers. But yeah, I mean, I truly just can't think of anything. Can't think of anything. I mean, I can't think of the name of the game, but they just there are games where they utilize like IPs, like there's the Nickelodeon type games, right, that still exist, um, and stuff of that magnitude. Like there's that. I mean, I don't know. I think it is actually kind of popular, that Smash Brothers style Nickelodeon game, right? Like
Well, that actually fell down pretty badly. Like, there's not that
Oh,
many
did
people
it?
players. But
Oh, okay.
to your point is that they have a new game called Multiverse, which is from Warner Brothers, and it
Yeah, I
has
think
all
I saw
those
that
things.
one too.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
blowing up quite a bit because it's
Mm-hmm.
free to play. Obviously, there's microtransactions, DLC characters, but there's a lot of recognizable like people in there that people can like jump in, join, have fun, and obviously still has that Smash element, but more
Mm-hmm.
defined.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a feeling that's gonna be like the next big brawler game is Multiverse.
Mm. Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't really looked much into it. But like I said, you go on social media, you'll see certain things for sure. Um, but yeah, man, like you definitely had me at a loss at this one. But I mean, like I said, for me, from my childhood, my memories, pretty much a lot of those characters you just brought up. But even for me, like it's always been RPGs, and not to really speak for a lot of other people, but I know it resonates with a lot of other people. So,
Yeah,
um,
because
but
I think the reason why I was thinking about this is because recently I have a friend that has like a 5-year old, and he was introducing his son to games, and he
mhm.
was talking about the classics that we played like Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish, and he showed his son that stuff, and he was like,
Earthworm Jim.
yeah, and he was like, these are really cool, and the ones that he would play usually was Fortnite, and I'm like, is that? I just felt bad that kids all they have now is like shooter games or violent games. It's like they
Mhm.
don't have the fun element that they used to anymore.
And as you were saying that, I'm just kind of still thinking, and maybe now I'm thinking of reasons as to why that exists. And I think it may be just because of how the evolution of graphics and where it is now. Because think back then, the cartoonier stuff, which is predominantly what a lot of the characters we just brought up are kind of easier to. I probably shouldn't even say it that way, but like just to pixelate or just to draw out and animate versus real people, which are a lot of the games now, are it's a lot harder to accomplish. I mean, yeah, you could do mocap and stuff, but like it's a harder process. But now that gaming has evolved to where it could be done and it could be done so lifelike, they're not creating characters anymore. They're not creating cartoon ish
I
stuff.
would disagree with you strongly, only because there's a lot of games that are cartoon graphics. It's just they're more on the violent side. Like there's a lot of games out there that still have different art styles that graphically, like for example, Borderlands is still very
Mhm.
popular, and that's a cartoon cell shaded
True,
one.
true.
Fortnite, for example, same thing. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of games that don't like you're probably thinking about like Last of Us, God of War, and all that stuff, with the photorealistic graphics.
Hmm.
But there's a lot more games that don't delve with photorealism. They go with more cartoonish like visuals still because
Hmm.
it's still considered more popular. Like Final Fantasy, for example, still likes to go with that cartoon anime look. They try to make it like
Uh,
more defined with their character models, but it's still that cartoon anime look.
well, it's simply fantasy.
Yeah,
It's fan. I mean, I mean, I could be totally wrong with this as well, but like, Final Fantasy has always had that style.
yeah.
Like it's always been, like, and I don't know when anime started per se, or like when
Oh, dude,
it
anime has been around
blossomed.
since like the 1800s. Like people, like the Japanese people drawing their
That's
cartoons.
true. That's true. But like, I mean, I'm not trying to say that which chicken before the egg, whatever, egg before chicken. I'm just saying like that's always existed with that. So I don't know if they've adapted it from anime. I don't know. Probably maybe. I don't
They
know.
it definitely was inspired by anime because you could tell by the characters what they were going for.
If you say so, I'm not gonna
I think
sit
you
here and
just want.
argue and
I
debate
think you're
that
looking for like an
because I
excuse
no,
to not be
I'm saying
anime.
that just I'm not gonna be there because I just truly don't know. If that's the genesis of it, then so be it. I mean, it is what it is. But I just know it is fantasy. So there's
Fantasy is
that.
the genre. I think that's where you're confusing style versus genre. The genre of the game is fantasy, but the art style is more
No, the
cartoon
genre is
anime.
RPG.
Well, fantasy RPG. Fantasy is a genre, okay? It's not an art
No,
style.
you're not wrong. It is also a genre, but you know.
But moving on.
I'm too sick for this. All right, so this is actually, I think this is going to be a big topic, and this probably going to evolve even more so. But I shared with you off the podcast a link to a news thingy majiggy. It was posted on VGC News from a very popular gentleman named Chris Scullion. So basically, so the name of our topic here is game companies blocking games from other platforms. But the genesis of this conversation is Sony's being called out for paying developers to not put content on Xbox Game Pass. Very interesting. Man, where do I begin with this? Because this could be very lengthy. When I first saw it, I'm like, what's the problem? I mean, this is kind of hasn't this been happening in different capacities for
Oh, this has been
forever?
happening for years. Nintendo started it, and then Xbox went over.
That's my point. I mean, we could talk ad nauseum about this. Like, I immediately compared it to, paying for what is it, like time release games, right?
Yeah, exclusive rights.
Exclusive rights for timing. It's like, I mean, this has been going on. So like, I don't. I'm trying to like see both ends of it and not really just pick a side. I'm just like confused. Like, okay, why is this a problem? And maybe you could shed light on that. But like I get it from Xbox. The problem is because they want more shit on their Game Pass. I get it, but like and I know why Sony doesn't want it because they don't want more people to buy their Game Pass and then lose. Like it's all obviously about money. But what I think too is like the developers. I mean, I'm sure they're obviously making their decision, but like I don't know how much they get paid for having their content on the Game Pass. Like, is it per purchase, per play, per like? I have not the damnedest clue. But what we do know is they're going to get paid to not put it on there. So is that worth more than them not getting on Game Pass? I don't know, but I'm guessing logistically it is if they're accepting the payments.
Well, I think this is also stemming from. There's been a lot of talk about the relationship between Sony and Square Enix because they've had a really interconnected relationship with how they want Final Fantasy and certain games to only be on PlayStation, but Square Enix doesn't want to be bought by Sony. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely been a lot of deals where Sony pays Square Enix to not release Final Fantasy 16 or whatever for quite some time and just keep it to PlayStation, and which that's been a thing for a long time. Like Xbox did that to Call of Duty in the very beginning during the 360 PS3 days. So it's like everybody's done it, but I think the reason why honestly the article you says that is because they just want clicks, because it's been happening for years, but they just toss out, oh, they don't want games to go on other systems, they're evil. People just click and talk about it again even though it's been going on for over 20 years.
No, that you're right on that for sure. But like, I mean, to your point, yes, it goes on and on and on. And but I think what does bring it to light more now is this whole acquisition that still not official with Xbox and Activision, and and then them acquiring Call of Duty, and I think we briefly talked about. I think we talked about this on episode 1. I can't even remember now. But everything that's under the Activision catalog is a huge win for Microsoft. But I mean, even though I play WoW, even I could admit that Call of Duty is far more larger of an acquisition than probably WoW is. So the whole spinning thing here is that well, per the article, I don't know, we could sit here and talk what's factual and not all day, but per the article, it says that prior to this acquisition, which I guess Microsoft would still have to honor, is only the next 3 games on their catalog would be going to PlayStation as well, and then after that, they're not contractually obligated. Now, Microsoft has come out and said that they were still going to allow it because they thought it was still going to be worth money to them to still have it multi-platform.
100%. And the reason why is microtransactions. Why would you limit your microtransactions on one system when you can have it on everywhere and get more money from everyone?
So I haven't played a COD in quite some time, and it's not surprising to me if they do have microtransactions.
Oh, they are littered with it to the point where that's why I stopped.
Gotcha. See, like I haven't. The last one I genuinely played was Modern Warfare 3, and that's been. I mean, they've already remade Modern Warfare 3, haven't they? Like,
no, they remade the first 2. Modern Warfare 3 hasn't been remade yet, but most likely at some point it's going to.
Yeah. So like, I haven't played one in forever, and actually, for a first-person shooter, those storylines are fucking pretty damn good, and were like, dare I say, movie quality. Like, I enjoyed them thoroughly, but yeah, that's some time ago. We know the world has evolved, but yeah. So I guess the fear is, if somehow Microsoft does decide to not allow it on multiple platforms, or at least their platform, that that would be not having a rival. And I'm sitting there, I'm reading this, I'm thinking, well, fucking make your own rival. Resurrect Resistance, man. Like, I've been waiting for that to come back, but like that's your own fault for not having a rival.
Yeah, they have their vision of what they want to go through, and that's like The Last of Us, God of War, Uncharted. They want to go for like that realistic look, and they pretty much, they shelved, things like Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, Resistance, because it doesn't meet their vision anymore. And I think that's quite unfortunate, because those games still have a huge fan base, but they just didn't, like when they were like Resistance, for example. The reason why that died out is because PlayStation was kind of having Insomniac do other things that they wanted to do, like Spider-Man, and they were forced to not put much developing power into Resistance, or they had to cut resources somewhere. It's just quite unfortunate, where if it doesn't meet a company's vision, certain properties die because they just aren't aligned currently.
Yeah, well, that vision was the wrong vision then.
I mean,
and maybe they regret it now, because they've allowed themselves into a predicament that they would not have substantial competition in talking about genres in one massive, and I mean massive, genre.
As much as I hate, well, I'm not gonna say hate. As much as I would love to see more variety that PlayStation used to have, I don't think they're regretting it, because for example, like Last of Us, that thing is still making bank. They remade it after they remade the first one 3 times already, and they're still making a lot of money off of that. The second one they're probably gonna remake at some point. God of War is still making a lot of money. Horizon's making a lot of money. I don't think they're regretting any of these things. I think they're actually very happy where they're currently at. But I think
they're obviously making fucking money up the ass. Like, I mean, that's true. I mean, that's we all know that. But maybe regret was the wrong word to use. But like, I don't know.
They're gonna regret it later when they limit themselves.
Well, that's the thing. Like they're fearing it now, right? Like they could see it.
Yeah, that's why they bought Bungie, hoping that they can help them with some kind of live service game.
Shit,
I don't think they could do. I think Destiny was like their one off from Halo, and I think it's gonna take them a long time for them to create a second identity that could rival Destiny.
Riddle me this really quickly: is Grand Theft Auto on Xbox as well already?
Grand Theft Auto has been on all 3 platforms simultaneously.
Okay, that one used to be a time exclusive to Sony as well, right? Or no?
Nope.
No.
You're probably thinking of the PC version because PC did come out like 6 months to a year after it came out on console. But that's
Mm-hmm.
only for developing reasons, like developing issue reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been
Okay.
on console like PlayStation, Xbox day one whenever it's been released. There's been no difference in the release for both of them.
And how long has that been going on? I don't know why. Just like I feel like I don't know why I felt like that was a PlayStation exclusive at some point.
You're probably thinking that because during the PS2 days, uh, that Grand Theft Auto 1, 2, and 3, I think, came out only on PlayStation, but then
Mm-hmm.
Xbox, started to prove itself as its console, and then,
Mm-hmm.
Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and all that stuff then started to come
Mm-hmm.
out to Xbox as well.
Okay, so they got ported, but then after the porting, and once they were releasing a new one, it was a multi-platform launch. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, man, it's just very interesting. Like, I mean, I would love to see how this unfolds because I don't
I don't think
I
we'll
think
ever
there's
see
more
it,
to it.
and because, like I said, it's been going on for 20 plus years, with Nintendo, with their systems. I think this is going to be an ongoing thing because it's just that's how companies work. They want more power to their own platforms, so they'll use whatever money they can to limit the other, like limit the competition.
Of course. But it's like, why? I mean, once again, we all know why it's both money, but it just, I guess now this is the fanboy part starting to come out of me. But it's like, why is Microsoft crying about it? Like, I mean, like everybody does it. It's been
Wait,
going on.
is
It's like,
Microsoft crying about it, or is the person writing the article crying about it? Because I haven't heard Microsoft say anything like, "Oh, that's bad," because they don't care. They're making so much money off of Game Pass and Bethesda. They don't care about Sony right now. And plus, all their stuff that they have on PC, because PC is also connected to Xbox. So right now, money wise, Xbox is doing so much more than PlayStation is currently. So I don't think they are
well,
tearing up at all.
I think that's in that digital realm, right? And I think that's the market they're both trying to fight for, right?
And well, I think Sony's trying to come into that market. Obviously, with PlayStation Plus becoming announced, and I think they realized how much money they were losing to
Yeah,
Xbox.
yeah.
And unfortunately, like I have both Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. I think they're both good services, but PlayStation is so limited to just themselves that they'll never be able to be a true competitor to Xbox, because
Mm-hmm,
PlayStation only has their system, while Xbox has Xbox, PC, and mobile.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
they have three platforms to make money off of, while PlayStation only has one. And I think
mm-hmm.
PlayStation, eventually in the future, maybe like a year or two times, they're gonna start branching off to PC. As you can see, that's a lot of their exclusive games like Spider-Man, Uncharted, um, God of War have moved on to PC.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they're realizing how much they're hurting because they locked themselves to just being exclusive.
Interesting, but that's still also feeding Microsoft in some aspect.
Yeah, feeding them money, yeah, but like
Yeah.
Microsoft definitely is not crying. They're in such a power position where they're not
Oh
hurting at
no.
all unless they really
I
fumble the
mean,
ball.
they're both not crying, but they're crying because they want more, right? It's like
Oh, yeah, the greed.
that's yeah, the greed. I mean, it's just so crazy. It's so funny. But it'll be interesting to see if this even escalates further. I think by little bit less than a year now, because I think that deal is supposed to become official June of next year, if my memory serves me correct.
I know
We'll
it's
see.
relatively soon. You talking about for Activision Xbox, right?
Activision, yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll see if any fireworks fly then, because
I think it's pretty much already
that's.
a done deal at this point.
I mean,
And the only reason
from
why I say that is because, they've already released company letters of like when people are leaving, because, after the transition happens, certain people are going to
mhm.
be pretty much let go. Like,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
whatever that head executive at Blizzard that's doing all that awful stuff. I
hmm
mean, he pretty much already has like an exit date.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens. But I thought it was an interesting read. So.
Yeah, but go before we move on to this, because I know you asked and we kind of like glossed over it, but
Mhm.
you're asking how much money do developers get paid, for either not having a game on a system or having a game on a system. It all depends on, obviously, the developer, their worth, But like I know for Game Pass, a lot of their indie developers get paid like 500,000 to potentially $10 million, depending on like how the what their budget was and how long their exclusivity deal is for their platform. Like
Mhm.
most indie developers, whenever they get their game on Game Pass, it's usually for 9 months to a year, and they usually get paid like the average of like $3 million because the cost to make is not that much, so they pretty much just get that paid. People get to try it, and then after that, they get to buy with a discount. But like big AAA stuff, like if it's not owned, they usually get anywhere from like 50 to $100 million, and
That's
that's usually
crazy.
for like 6 months.
That's crazy.
And I know Sony gives out even more. I think Sony for Final Fantasy or Yakuza, it was like close to maybe 500 million,
That's nuts.
and
That
that
is
was
insane,
only for
man.
like 6 months as well.
Just 6 months of exclusiveness. That's nuts.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. I mean, I mean, obviously they wouldn't fork it over if it wasn't worth it. So I don't know the logistics by that, but damn, that's just madness. That's
and
just madness.
and Square Enix being paid that much makes a lot of sense because even though I'm not gonna say I'm like a massive Square Enix fan except for like Kingdom Hearts and certain Final Fantasy games, there's no denying that they bring people to systems because of how larger games as like Final Fantasy 14 is like pretty much WoW level, with money.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you're speaking to somebody right now. I don't own a PS5, although I should. I will get one here shortly. I have to. When I say have to, I mean because their catalog within the next handful of years is damn. Arguably, it's probably going to be a golden age, another golden age for them. I mean, they got Crisis Core remake coming this Christmas. The next installment of Final Fantasy VII next year. They still haven't gave a date for Final Fantasy 16, but for them to throw it in the middle of these two, I mean, for me as a gamer, would be fantastic. But it's not like they're competing against themselves. They're still going to make their money, but I mean, they could make that wait all the way till 25 if they want to, and just have every year one big ass launch.
And not only that, but
They're setting themselves so much for success thanks to Final Fantasy VII universe. It's just ridiculous.
what's that mobile game that you're playing too? That like it's like a MOBA.
Yeah, we could talk about that, segueing into the next topic if you like.
Because that's bringing a lot of people in. I heard, obviously, my this is just what I've read. It could be fake
Mhm,
because I didn't do too much research on it,
mhm.
but I heard that's coming to PlayStation at some point. It's going to be ported over.
The one that I'm playing on my mobile.
Yeah, it's like a battle royale, 90 something.
Oh, you're talking about Final Fantasy VII First Class or First Soldier, the battle royale one, the
Yeah,
one that's well. If you read that, that would definitely get me excited because and that
this
would
was like
probably
a quick glimpse that I seen on Twitter. Like it was an article, but I didn't click on the article, so I could be wrong. But
well
from
because you don't want to give somebody clickbaits.
yeah, but from what I seen, the quick little glimpse I seen, it looked like whatever that was coming over to PlayStation at some point soon.
I mean, that would be the smart move. And whether it was there or Steam, and maybe it's going to there because they're paying a hefty amount of money to get it exclusive, which is fine. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Like I got used to the playing on the mobile, but I think if they figure out the controller mobility and stuff, and kind of patch that to make it more fluid, oh, it's gonna play very nice. It's gonna do well, in my
Mm.
opinion. It's been on my back burner now because of the other one that's taken its place. But I do enjoy playing it, and I've never really played a battle royale, so this is my foray, but not really a foray because I'm probably not going to play any other ones. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. But that's because I'm a FF7 fanboy. So, but segueing because that game does have microtransactions, which is going to be our next and final topic for today's podcast: future of microtransactions and NFTs in gaming? Question mark. Um, so microtransactions. Oh, I don't want to say necessary evil because it shouldn't have to be necessary. But how gaming has evolved and come to this world of microtransactions. So I guess let's start with the genesis of this. I mean, the genesis of it really is, hey, here's a free game. Um, but you want to do good or you want to be on top? Here, start forking over some money and power up your characters. But it's free. You can still play for free. You can still do damn near everything you want for free. But if you want to excel and you want to be a great PvP or whatever, you got to fork over lots and lots of monies. Um, I'm not a fan of it. But it's so huge. Like Candy Crush was probably arguably one of the first. You could correct me on that. That's made billions of dollars. We're probably right. I've never touched that game. Don't really even know much about it. I don't know how microtransactions even work in the game. I thought it was a puzzle game. Isn't it a puzzle game?
Honestly, I never played Candy Crush.
You never played it? Yeah, I thought it was a puzzle game. Like, how does a puzzle game have microtransactions? I don't fucking know. So yeah, it's just fucking crazy. Like the games that dare I say accepted. I mean, it's not really my place accepted. They exist, so who am I? But going back to Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, for example, there's microtransactions, but it's simply for cosmetics. To me, that's fine. It's not affecting gameplay. Everyone is still on an equal level playing field. Fine. You want to pay extra money to get through that season's rewards and get all the fancy little, trinkets, so be it. I could still earn them. I just got to invest a shitload more time into it that nowadays I don't really have. So am I missing out on certain things? Yeah, but I'm fine with that. It is what it is, just because I'm not going to really fork over the money. However, where they are getting me, and I'll admit this, now going as I've been not really mentioning it for the whole podcast, but the current mobile game that I am playing, and I'm selling it to other people. Matter of fact, a couple of my other friends are playing it already. Is Octopath Traveler: Champions of the Continent, and that game has microtransactions, and it is I guess it's that concept of a gacha system or a gacha game, which I'm not even fluid with, and I'm being educated on it from my friends. But basically, you collect these different characters or heroes or champions, whatever you want to call them, and they have a star system. So you want to try to get the 5 stars. There's 4 stars. There's 4.5 stars. So you could power them up to a 5-star, and there's 3 stars. So if you want to unlock more, you have to pay to pool certain characters, right? So, of course, I'm a fan of the short, newly created series, so I fell into the promo category where it's like, hey, here's the promo. You spend $30, you're guaranteed to get at least one 5-star character. Oh, fuck yeah, I want that. I need that. So that's how I succumbed to my microtransaction for this game. Haven't spent a cent more, and I use the term yet because who the fuck really knows? But it's a single player RPG, so there's no PvP component to it. You still can go through the whole campaign without paying a cent, but they got me because it was a guarantee. They threw in that word, guarantee. You feel free to cut in and talk anytime you want. What are your experiences of maybe dropping money for microtransactions so far?
So, because a lot of the games that well, I guess I still kind of play like Call of Duty, Destiny, World of Warcraft, and all that stuff. They all have microtransactions, and I played a lot of games that do microtransactions right, like Destiny, because Destiny is one of those games where a lot of their microtransactions are purely cosmetic, and you have 2 ways to get them. 1, you pay for it, or 2, you just play the game. And I like that. I like that if you want it, you can still get it for free if you play. And I think that's acceptable. And they're also reasonably priced, too. Like
Mm-hmm.
usually they don't go over $10, which
Mm-hmm.
is like my cutoff point. Like anywhere from like $1, $3, $5, $10 is like a good market for me, especially if it's just purely cosmetic. But then I played games that do it really bad, like Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty is one of those games where you gotta pay to play, unless if you play Warzone. But I'm not into the BR. But all their microtransactions are the price of a video game. Like they'll be $24 per microtransaction. Like, and it's
Mm-hmm.
purely cosmetic. Obviously, you don't have to do it. So if you want to get it, that's on you. If you don't want to get it, that's also on you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but $24 just for skins, that's not me. And I know that there's a lot of other games that do that too, like Valorant and many others I probably won't name right now because they're mostly shooters and BR games.
Mm-hmm.
Like Fortnite, for example, is the one that probably started it all, and then everybody else followed.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, I've seen microtransactions done right in video games where I'm supportive of it because one, it's it gives developers extra money so they can fund projects or pay their employees if it's done reasonably. And then I've seen it done like Call of Duty, for example, where they're just too greedy, where they just want money for the sake of money, and they don't really. I mean, yeah, their cosmetics look cool, but they're not $24 cool. Like
Yeah.
I rather buy another video game for $24 than to just buy like a skin for a gun.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I feel like done right, I'm perfectly fine with it, but just for the sake of greed, it needs to go because it just ruins the game.
100%. I think so. Based on what you just shared, it seems like we're on the same wavelengths as far as what's considered good microtransactions and what's considered bad microtransactions. Um, and yeah, I mean that's exactly how I feel. Like there's a free way you can still get it. Yeah, I might invest more time. I think where it becomes a little still more challenging, and I don't want to say it's wrong, but like when it's then like time, not yeah, within a limited time, right? Because then you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna miss this. I know like First Soldier does it like this. Pokemon Unite, I believe, did it in this capacity as well. Like you have a season, right, and then the season has all the cosmetic rewards. And
Sorry to
let's say
interrupt. Are you talking about like battle passes or like just like
yeah, like battle passes. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that system where you're progressing for free, and then you're like, you know what? I'm running out of time here. They prorate basically how much you would have to pay to complete that season, which I think is a nice equilibrium. I think that's makes sense, right? You still don't have to, but it's like you know what? I really don't need this, but I want it. But it's only going to cost me the $3 instead of like to your point the 25, right? That it would have
Mm.
cost at the start of that season. Like I think that's cool too. That's a nice way of doing it per se. Um, but yeah, when it's in a ladder system or PvP or something like that is not good.
Oh, you're talking about like pay to win like Diablo?
Well, that's only one, but there's many
Oh
more.
yeah, there's many more.
Yeah, there's many more. I mean,
Didn't World of Warcraft kind of get some flack for that in the early days before they changed it, where it was like, no, maybe I'm playing something else.
no, World of Warcraft never had. The only microtransactions World of Warcraft has is
Cosmetic and mounts and all that stuff.
yeah, mounts, pets, and also now there's a little bit of transmog toys, very little toys. Well, obviously now you could buy those coins that you could sell for gold.
Oh no,
Um,
they did get hit because they had character boosts.
well, and that still exists in the game, and I was still
But
getting to
they
that.
nerfed it though, where it was just level instead of gear. Because I remember Warlords of Draenor, they had a $6 character boost where it gave you whatever the highest gear was at the time.
I don't recall that. I'm not saying you're wrong. It very well could be true, but I can't really remember that. I mean, technically, no. I'll say because if you boost, it's just a boost.
Yeah, it's just level boost. But like they only had it for like a couple months because I think there was a lot. Well, I also could be thinking about another game because I know there's a couple other like MMO-esque games that had character
Mm-hmm.
boost where if you bought this boost, you were the
Mm-hmm.
max level plus max gear, and a lot of people would be
It,
angry about that.
if they, I see, that's why I'm not recalling it. I can't recall it getting max gear. Like Would you get gear? Yeah, but I don't. It would be probably full greens. It wouldn't be like epic loot, which would be
It was like whatever,
end
like
game.
basically during that time it'd be like heroic level or mythic level like raid gear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they didn't do it. It sounds like something they would just be, the greed of any company, right? When they try to do these things, that would be like an incentive in some capacity. Yeah, pay to win, pay to get closer to win. Um, so yeah, I can't, I don't remember, but yes, the level boosts are still there. Then there's the faction change, the well, they're getting rid of the gender change. That's going to be free, I think, from now on. You get to do it in the
Thank
barbershop.
God.
Yeah,
Those changes were like, don't get me wrong, if they were like $5, I'm fine with that, but like $25 just to change your name?
yeah. There's a lot of them that are very expensive, but like, I mean, the reason why I'm guessing it's free now, I could be totally wrong on this, but I'm guessing they're not really making money from that feature, so they're like, might as well just throw it in the barbershop. I don't know, but yeah, like microtransactions. I mean, that could be an evil world. I
Yeah.
mean, very evil.
I,
And then go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, you know how like you're very, how do I say it? You stick to your guns whenever you believe in something, and I'm kind of the
Yes.
same way too,
Mhm.
to the point where like like microtrans, like Call of Duty for example, when it's done so horribly, even if I'm a long time lover of the franchise,
Mhm.
if it's done so bad like Call of Duty, it will deter me.
Mhm.
Like I
Mhm.
basically stopped playing Call of Duty in 2019 because of how bad it's gotten. Where I'm like, you know
Mhm.
what, I can't agree with this anymore. I can't support it. So I just, but
Yeah.
I just
Mechanics
put
can
my
walk
hands up
away.
and walked away.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, and that needs to happen more. But there, like the game I'm playing, for example, there's also it can become addicting because there's a gambling aspect to it,
Oh yeah.
and that too I don't really like. But then they soften the blow a little bit, where they're like, okay, they have what is it called, like skunk proof, right? It's like, oh, you know what? You do this 30 times, and then we'll give it to you for free, or not really for free, but you're guaranteed to get it your next pull.
Oh, you're talking
Was it?
about duplication prevention?
I don't know what you know this stuff more than I do with terms of shit. I don't know if that's what it's called. I call it skunk prevention because that's the way I was
I mean,
always learned how
I've
to.
never heard of it, but it's probably the same thing where it's
It's
like
probably the same
after a
thing. Yeah.
certain amount of time, if you don't get it, it starts increasing your odds. Because like I know, for example, Overwatch, when they did their loot boxes, there was a lot of issues with the gambling laws. So
Mhm.
eventually, they made it where if you start buying things, they'll lessen the amount of duplicates you get and start giving you
Mhm.
things you don't have.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what it is. I don't even know where I learned the term or how I found it, but
You
I
probably
always
just
called
made
it a
it up.
skunk. So yeah, skunk protection. But yeah, basically that mechanic, that mechanism. So they find ways. They find ways
Mm.
to try to lure you to do it. Um, but it just always boils down to the consumer and how disciplined you may or may not be. Like I know, and segueing this, it's still a microtransaction, but a whole DLC is a microtransaction, and for like Nintendo started doing it. I mean, Pokemon Sword and Shield is one for it, but like I did it. I'll just speak for me. I did it because I'm a fucking fanboy. Now, was it worth it? I think content wise, it was worth it, but you would never know that when you're forking up the money up front. Like that's kind of hindsight, and even that is just my opinion. Some people might not say it was worth it. They did it for Final Fantasy 15 that I played. They had every character in that game pretty much had a separate story slash campaign that they turned into a DLC microtransaction. I think I only did the first two, and I'm like, nope. To your point with Call of Duty, and I love Final Fantasy. I said no. I'm like, this it's enough. Like I'm done, and it scared the shit out of me when Seven was being remade and come out. I'm like, they better not use that fucking model. They better not use it, and thankfully they did not. Now put it with the little asterisk yet, because who the hell knows? 'Cause they still need to release some more installments. But um, I I don't I don't think. Hopefully, when 16 comes out, they don't do that. I pray to the heavens they don't do that. But for 15, it was bad, and I don't know what their numbers looked like. Maybe it failed. I don't know. All I know is I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. Um, but microtransactions, I think, are here to stay. I don't think they're going anywhere.
Oh yeah, they're definitely not going anywhere.
They're the biggest money-making scheme for these companies that there's ever been. And mobile is the breeding ground for that.
Oh, it definitely started with mobile, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But
So,
I hate to say this because I'm usually against regulations because I feel like it's more just like a chokehold on people to set limits. But I feel like there needs to be limits on how their microtransactions are dealt with, because there's, like I said, there's good microtransactions where you get content like, whatchamacallit, like expansion packs, where it's like you pay $30, you get all this extra content that's basically like a new game for $30.
yeah. Even that, if I may cut you off for really quickly, but even that though was hugely contested with, especially the gaming world. Is like, well, bullshit. You guys had that done from the get-go, and you're just encrypting it and making us pay to unlock it. Now,
there's some game developers that do purposely cut content to sell it again, but then there's other developers like World of Warcraft or Destiny where they pretty much are developing nonstop for new content.
That we know. Yeah, that we know. We understand. We know that content takes years to develop and release, and that expansion system is understandable. But like going back to Pokemon again, Sword and Shield, like I don't know much on how that works. I really don't. But it almost seems like that content was already there.
Oh yeah, for Pokemon's example, yeah, that was definitely already there. Like you can already tell that obviously this is just from YouTubers I watch. I don't know if it's factual because I didn't do it myself, but what was it, the Isles of Fighting, or whatever it's called, whatever those the first expansion was, that was already coded in the game before it was released. And that DLC code just unlocked that part of the content, but it was already there in the game at launch.
Exactly. So that's like I as much as I love Pokemon, like I categorize that as a bad microtransaction.
Yeah,
because they're really just taking advantage of us consumers. Now, I'm the sheep that pays, but but we all have our limits, as I just said, like with FF15, you said with COD, but like we'll see.
Yeah, I think there just needs to be like a rule set where, like, if it's cosmetic, they need to be like a set amount. They can't go over like $50 for a bundle. I think it should be very simple, like Call of Duty back in the day when it did it right. Like a gun camo was like maybe $1. A new gun was like $5. Like it was very simple. It wasn't a lot. They still made their money and they got to fund whatever projects they wanted, and everybody is happy. I feel like there needs to be like rules again where it's like, if you're gonna chart like cosmetics, it cannot go over $10. If it's DLC, it has to, well, obviously depending on like the size of the content you're giving, make it anywhere from $15 to $30, and nothing else more than that. No pay to win nonsense needs to be in there.
Now, if I may tap into COD really quick, because I have no concept on how it works, but I'm just thinking of maybe ways to get creative, and I'm maybe borrowing this from Warcraft a little bit. But does Call of Duty have a currency system?
Yes, they do. It's called COD points.
And that's not simply just bought, but that's the free, it's a free currency?
No, it's the majority of the time it's bought. You do have the Battle Pass version that's free, and you can get about 800 COD points, but the conversion rate is just so awful where it's basically you're still getting nothing. So like you'd have to wait 6 months just to be able to have enough points just to buy at least one thing. Okay,
so I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at, but I guess more is my implementation was, a free currency, but you could also attribute some of that currency to lower the cost of said microtransaction item. Does that
Well,
exist in that game?
the COD points is it's just all in one. Like it's meant to be the currency
Okay.
to buy things.
So my I wouldn't call it idea concept because I know certain games do have that. But do you think maybe that should be a standardization
Oh,
amongst all games that
100%. Like
have
it's
microtransactions?
like Destiny is a perfect example. Like it has something called Silver, which is basically Call of Duty's version of COD points, where
Mm-hmm.
that you spend money, you get these coins to buy your whatever skins or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
then they also have Bright Dust, which is the free currency you get in game by doing whatever task you want, and that gets converted over to buying your cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
So they have two currencies, one paid, one free, and the
Mm-hmm.
free will give you whatever currency you want if you earn enough.
Yeah.
And it's usually pretty generous. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you do a week, you can get a lot of stuff for whatever you want. Like, you're allowed to
Mm-hmm.
buy like one or two items off the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that would be the more, dare I say, the more noble approach. And like I said, even to the extent where it's like, going back into your line of thought, I was like, I would only make skins limited to, whatever, $3, et cetera, et cetera. But like, let's say you still didn't even want to pay $3, but you're like, you know what? They're selling for three. I only want to pay one, but in order for me to pay one, I have to use X amount of this free currency and $1. You know what I'm saying?
Unfortunately,
Like,
there's no system that converts to. That would be an interesting idea. Like, let's say it's like let's say you had enough bright dust to buy half of it, and then you convert the other
yeah,
half. That would be
exactly.
cool. Unfortunately, I've never seen a system that does that, but
Okay,
that would be cool to see that.
so let's make a game.
Yeah, like Call of Duty, for example, like before 2000, what was it, 17 or 18, before it got really bad, they
Mm-hmm.
used to have a system was supply drops, and arguably that was gambling, but they also gave you a way to earn supply drops by playing for free,
Mm-hmm.
and it cycled through weapons, skins, whatever. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they need to bring supply drops back mixed with buying it right away from the market. Like, let's say you take a gamble at the supply drop, it's free, and you potentially get something you want. But then if you know you don't want to take the risk of gambling, you can just buy it straight away from the market, and you're guaranteed to get whatever you want.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like there should be
No, no, it
there
does.
should be a choice. Do you want to
Yeah.
take a risk for free, or
Yeah.
do you want to buy it and get guaranteed?
Yeah. For sure. Is crap. How was I going to ask this? Going back to COD and the microtransaction. I think I might. I think I might have long COVID take effect on me now. Whatever I want to say. Shit. But obviously it was microtransaction related. But yeah, my brain farted. Sorry.
No,
Um,
it's fine.
but
Um,
continuing to phase two, or part two of this topic, and this is where I'm probably going to need lean on you for this because I'm not
well,
entirely diverse.
that'd be the worst idea ever because I know what you're talking about with NFTs. It's just I also don't know what games they're in, but I know that they're being introduced on like PC and all that stuff. So how is it introduced? How is it going to be bought? I have no idea. I've done no research on it because I don't support NFTs because I think they're just another way to people spend money and buy things that aren't really worth it.
No, I agree too. That's like, and I don't want to go off the rails here, but like just really briefly, like I was a skeptic with crypto, but I eventually, you know, got in a little bit. But as I got into crypto, and then NFTs start popping out, and they're like, "Oh, this is the next crypto," and then the very little research I started doing, I'm like, no, thank you. Like, I'm gonna stay away from that with like a 20-foot pole. I mean, I think there it can be good, and it's a good market for like, I would say like the artistic community in
Yeah,
that
the
part.
art
But
community makes sense because you're basically trading uh human like basically made goods and the rights to own it, and that that I'm understandable with that, but when you put it in video games, it doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
yeah. So like segueing it back though, but like because you're theoretically you kind of own it, and I still use that in quotation marks. But in video games, it's like, man, that is just bad all around. Like I remember the rumors were circulating for Warcraft, and they really shit on that idea. I was like, thank God. Um, but I mean, if it's gonna happen, like God forbid, I don't know if it would hurt them, but I could see a Fortnite doing it. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, they
it's
would probably be the ones to do it too.
because you just think about like talking about skins, right? Like they could have, oh God, I'm just gonna pull a name out of my ass. They could have a Dwayne the Rock Johnson endorse a skin, but we're only gonna sell it to 10,000 people.
So
And then those 10,000 people pay for said NFT. I don't know how the hell they go, to your point, I don't know how they go off and do that shit. But then only those 10,000 accounts have access to that skin. And then they could resell it at their leisure. And who knows how much it could be worth. It's, as I said it that way, it's also interesting. But like, I definitely just don't want to see it at all.
the one thing that's always confused me about NFTs because it originally started with art, but then became with digital memes and rights and all that stuff, basically like copyright claims just for
It's,
owning. But
yeah.
the one thing is like if it originally was the rights to digital art, it makes no sense because there's no ground rules there. Because I've seen there's basically like a weird, in my opinion, poorly drawn cartoon where like a guy wearing 3D glasses sold for a bunch of money on wherever they originally sold in NFTs, and then Twitter made an NFT account and it was sold again. So I'm like, who owns the rights then? If it was sold two different spaces for different
Well,
persons.
it's adopting the crypto blockchain format.
So then that means no one owns the rights to whatever that art is. So basically, it's money being moved for no reason, and no one gets any like tangible evidence of them owning anything.
No, I think the tangible evidence is the blockchain. Like your name is tied to owning that property. But you're not the only one that technically owns it because
But wouldn't
depending
there
on
be
how
like
many they
property
sell,
selling, and the more people own it, the less
see
that value
now,
is?
now that's the world and realm I'm not intuitive with either, and I ask those same questions because it's like hypothetically, whatever that art piece is, right? That you now own NFT. So is the suggestion that okay, I own this, but if I see somebody on the street with that on their T-shirt that doesn't own it, can I sue them?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, if you own if you own an NFT, I feel like, and it's sold with the rights, that would make sense because it means you own an exclusive piece of internet property, and to
Mm-hmm.
me that makes sense because it holds value. But if
Mm-hmm.
anyone can buy into it, it's basically like public property that anyone can own, and the more people that own it, it devalues it, which doesn't make sense. So that means there's no real value to whatever you own. So that's why NFTs to me have always been different than crypto because crypto is basically it's a set value of proof, but NFTs don't have a set value. They're basically whatever people set it out to be.
That part is true. Once again, I'm definitely sounding like an idiot for everything I say because I'm not versed with NFTs.
Oh, neither am I.
But like the little bit that, and I will say, I think I know. I also don't know. It's like it's just like it's so foreign to me, but it's also like I understand it, but it's also scary. Like I mean, like going back to the game format, like I kind of get it, right? You sell it in a limited quantity because that's really what NFTs are. I mean, so is crypto, right? Although the crypto ceilings are very fucking large, but there is also a ceiling. Um, but NFTs usually those ceilings are in a smaller variety, whether it's 10, 100, 10,000, 30,000, whatever it may be. But that volume are smaller. Like the only NFT I was very close, well, I shouldn't say very close, but I actually tried to buy, and only it was because it was a forum that I understood was Tops, was trading cards because they got in that market, and I was like, okay, this is the first release. I don't know how many more releases they've done, but I was just trying to get involved in the first release. It's like I understand the market, it's my jam. I only want to do it to flip, but it was so fucking hot. I had no opportunity of getting anything. So, um, yeah, man, I don't know. I think it just depends on the medium, right, or the form that
So
that that
I
that you
have
may be investing in.
I have a question. One, like I said, you and I might be. Well, you probably have more knowledge in it than I do because I only did a little research when it came out. But when Topps did it, was it a set value when their NFTs dropped, or did the value change depending on how high demand it was?
So I didn't keep up with it because I didn't get in. But the way I saw it to be was just like the real tangible card market, right? If not, probably more larger.
No, I'm
They
saying like
sold
when they put them.
they sold it at like an MSRP price. But yes, that individual card itself could skyrocket depending on who the hell wants it and what they're willing to pay.
But what I'm asking is,
Uh-huh.
did when they sold it, did the price change constantly, or was it set until somebody else bought it? Like, let's say if Top sold an NFT for $500, did they change it randomly at any given time depending on how hot they're selling, or was it guaranteed to be $500 till somebody bought it?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I didn't follow through after I wasn't able to buy any. My if I could answer without answering definitively is just like a real box of cards or a case of cards or a single pack of cards. Topps sold it at that price. What
Okay, so
happens
it's set.
after? Yes,
That's all I want to know.
from Topps it is set.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Okay. After that, it could go anywhere.
Yeah, obviously after that that's just common market trading value, but I was talking about from the company itself if that had a set price or if it changed depending on like how popular it was, because I know some companies do that. They price gouge on themselves and they raise values of products that shouldn't have been raised.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No. It was a set price.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, because that would be one of the more scummy things that companies can do with NFTs is that like let's say the original set price was $500, but they realize, oh, this might be a little bit more valuable, and now it's $1,000.
Hmm.
I
I
want
mean,
it to be like a set price guaranteed, unless if it's like
yeah. No. It
public
was
trade market.
no. It was a set price. If you want to call this scummy or not, but I mean, or just another method of making money, which it was. I mean, that's really what it was. It was just another form for them to make more money. Like that same. I shouldn't say same set because they were able to digitalize and make certain cards move or whatever. They could do more in the digital form, um, but it's the same card release as the physical one.
I'm
And
perfectly fine with that because they kept
yeah,
it set. They didn't they
yeah,
didn't change its value at all.
correct.
I'm perfectly fine
Um,
with that.
yeah. So, but yeah, going back into video games, like I like how it's applied and how it's executed and done and all that stuff. I just don't know. And the other part that is also um, makes it very I don't want to say volatile, but like is we all know games don't last forever. Every game,
I would say that's true, but look at World of Warcraft. It's
well, I
almost 20
mean,
years at this point.
you're right. I mean, like hate to keep talking about it, but yes, but even ultimately so, I feel someday World of Warcraft will come to an end. But take World of Warcraft out of the equation for a second.
No.
A lot of games eventually do end, whether it's due to them making a sequel and they put all the resources to that, but eventually servers shut down, servers close. So like if they're going to introduce NFTs to a particular game, then how do they handle that? They're like, oh, sorry, you wasted your money on these digital items, but they're gone. Like, I mean,
I,
what would then happen?
I feel like that fear is no longer a viable thing, only because a lot of games that do eventually branch off into sequels, their servers the stuff you own in previous games can transfer over. Like for example, Call of Duty, even though I don't support it,
Mm-hmm.
every iteration,
Mm-hmm.
your camos and all that stuff can transfer over. So they do carry over to the next iteration of it.
Okay,
So it can happen where you have servers or properties, and they'll just collect that data you previously owned and transfer to the next
gotcha.
iteration.
To keep laughing on your previous statement there, I guess I wouldn't know that because World of Warcraft has been lasting forever. But that is good to know though, because I also always and often wondered that. So
Yeah, the games nowadays is, I mean, Call of Duty is not the exception. There's been like, for example, Fortnite's been reset 3 times already, but
mhm.
every skin or camo, whatever, does transfer to the next iteration of it by,
Stay on your account.
yeah.
That's good then. That's good.
So games can do it. So that's why I say that fear isn't as viable anymore because of the way digital ideas can be transferred now.
Hmm.
So I don't know. That's just me, but I still don't feel like it makes sense for games. Maybe if you're holding like a crypto wallet, sure, external, but in games it makes no sense, in my opinion. But I could be just old.
I mean, the way I painted it out, like I could see it making sense. Like they just, like I said, they just make certain skins with a maximum quantity, maximum release, and they just have people pay for them.
So if that's the case, CS:GO has been doing this for years because they've done that with a bunch of their gun skins where it's like very limited, and they go into the box, and if you get it, it's worth $500,000 or $1 million because of how limited amount there was. So
Mm.
I guess NFTs have already been in games for years.
Yeah, and I mean the way I'm painting it too is probably not like as we're discussing this, we probably have it ass backwards and we still know what the hell we're talking about.
I guess we have
But
to do
yeah,
more research on this and find out.
yeah, probably more research or see when it comes more mainstream because, like I said, I guess if there is any game, unless they came out and said they are not going to do it, but it probably would be Fortnite.
Actually, this
Um,
makes me almost want to do more research because there hasn't been many things that push back against, like, for example, crypto. I've been a supporter of because I feel like, just like any kind of form of currency, how we start from gold and then turn to paper and then turn to digital currency and then, crypto took over. I'm like, evolution happens. I'm down for it. It's like, it's just a part of life. Evolution happens. But NFT for me has been the only thing that's been like, like obviously I haven't done research, but when I heard of it and the concept of it, it made me scratch my head. It's like crypto, but without set rules. Like crypto at
yeah,
least has proof of work, proof of concept, and how they get their blockchains to work, and mining and all that stuff. But NFTs, it doesn't seem like there's like any like ground like foundation for them. And
mhm.
obviously I could be wrong, but that's where I need to do research.
Yeah, like from my understanding, it really truly is just an agreement. It's like you point at anything and say we're agreeing it's worth this for right now, and that's what we're going to pay for it, and we're going to limit it. But then from there, it could go wherever.
Yeah, that sword right behind you. Let's agree that's a set value of $10 million. That's gonna be what the new Valley currency is.
And it's one of one. So if you want it, you got to pay for 12 million.
Yeah, it's the only one that's been touched by Shiesty.
Exactly right. That's why it's worth so fucking much. So I believe that's all I have for today. How about yourself, good sir?
Honestly, I can't think of anything because now my brain is like still thinking about NFTs, so now I just want to like do
Now you
research and
just want to
figure
do
this
research
out.
on energy.
Yeah.
Hey, go do it. Maybe you'll learn so much and you'll change your mind and like, oh my god, I'm selling all my crypto when I'm putting it in this little corgi animation. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right, so I'm guessing you want to wrap it up.
We could wrap it up if you're ready to wrap it up. I think we did pretty good. That's really good conversations once again, and keep it going next week and the week after and week after and week after.
All right, so that will be it for episode 3 of the Out of Mana podcast. Sorry, COVID's still hitting me. Episode 3 of the Out of Mana podcast. Episode 4 hopefully will be August 19th as long as nothing happens, but we will let you know if you follow The Real Shiesty and I on social media. But yes, thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Thank you for listening as well.
Oh, and listening. Yeah, that's very true. Peace.
Peace.